G'day. Trooper Cody and Steve bringing you part 2 of the Ian Idris diary entries for the 11th and 12th of August. And this is what happened on the 12th of August when Ian had been sent with what amounted to an entire troop. They weren't all from the same troop, they weren't all the same section, but 30 odd blokes had been sent to transport 100 horses to the horse hospital. When they got there, there were no horses for them to be able to return to the regiment. It turns out there's a little known fact that horse stealing within the Allied military was almost an accepted practice. It might sound a bit strange because the British Army, the British cavalry, had the serial number of each horse embedded into the hoof, so that a horse was a piece of equipment recorded much like your rifle. In the Australian light horse they didn't do that. You swapped and changed horses. Your horse was sick, you got another horse. It was much like when they were stockmen out mustering cattle. They didn't have one horse. They had a number of horses that rotated around to keep the horses all fresh. What happened is some of the guys from the Australian light horse found themselves with no horses at the hospital, so they snuck off to try and steal some horses from a nearby New Zealand group of mounted rifles. The New Zealanders knew this practice took place. They were very much on the ball, and they, let's say, accosted the Australians, telling them that they were not going to steal their horses and go away. But what they then did is they saw a labour camp. This is military labourers that were mainly Indians, and they saw that the officers there had horses, so they went to steal some officers' horses. When they went to do this, what they found is that each horse had its own Indian groom. This is a little bit about the English officers, aristocracy, and I'm not going to say slaves, but poorly paid Indians. That was one Indian per horse. When they went there to steal the Indian officers' horses, each groom had the horse's halter tied to his wrist with a knot that was pretty much impossible to get undone. Two of Ian's mates were able to cut the halter and then jump on the horse's bareback, race off, put their own saddle and gear on, and then disappear with those horses. But by then the rest of the Indian grooms were so on the ball, they made sure no more horses got stolen. A little bit later in the day, 2 Indian grooms are seen to ride up on 2 magnificent horses, and the Aussies see them go off, the grooms, lie down and go to sleep under some palm trees. 2 of the guys sneak over, jump on these magnificent horses with the full intention of just riding back to the regiment. That's all they want to do. They want to get back to their regiment, they want to get back to action. When they're on their way, they see a group of cameleers, the camel corps, coming, carrying big drums of water, and they think they're going to be sociable and just say good day as they ride past. As they ride up to the camels, they're almost on them, a British officer steps from behind a camel and says, "Hello, Prince," to which the horse one of the Aussies is riding pricks up his ears, gets all alert and starts walking toward the officer, and the officer then says to the Australian, "What are you doing on my horse?" Another officer walks around, and it turns out 2 British officers were bringing in this group of the camel train. Their horses had been taken back to the oasis for them by their grooms. The 2 Aussies had stolen them and then coincidentally bumped into these British officers. Now, not all British officers have got a good sense of humour. Not all British officers treated Australians well. But these 2 blokes knew the Australians stole the horses simply to get back to their regiment. They treated it as a joke. They told the Aussies, get back, take our horses back to where you stole them from, and then spend the day grooming them to perfection. And that's what they did. And just to finish off, what did Ian actually do? Ian saw a bloke ride in, another Australian trooper. The trooper was laughing about how he'd earlier stolen this horse, and then Ian pinched that horse and rode back to the regiment himself. A little bit of theft maybe, but all done with good intentions. Long story. Hope you found it interesting. Please subscribe. Until next time, cheers.